Hi folks, this is Amitai from Gizra. So let's see microsites using organic groups on Drupal. So first of all, if you look on a real site, if you go to congo.un.org, you can see a real site with real content showing Congo using French and English. If you go to haiti.un.org, you'll see completely different languages, completely different content. It's the same site, it's the same database, but those are different microsites that are using organic groups to have different content and different content editors. If we go to iran.un.org, we can see the same site, but this time in Farsi. So we have this demo repository showing how something like that could be done after installing it. If you go as an administrator user to Microsites Drupal starter, you can see that as a privileged users, you are able to see the different microsites that you would have on the site. Iraq, Spain, and since you're a privileged user, you'd be able to see the United States, which is an unpublished microsite. So different microsites have different host names. Using DDEV, it was pretty easy to make it work also locally. So if you'd go to iq.microsite and so on, you would see Iraq and the news that belong to Iraq. If you click on the Arabic, you would see the same site, but on Arabic, along with the translated news items. Spain, on the other hand, es.microsite, different country, different explanation, different flag, different news item, different languages. It has only English and Spanish. If I click on Spanish, I would see that it has two news items because those news items are in Spanish. If I'm going to an unpublished microsite, then as a privileged user, I would be able to access it. Now, this is an important feature that is often used. So imagine United States as a microsite, as a country, they want to have their content, they don't do it immediately in one click of the button, have all the content. So instead, they create this shell, this unpublished microsite, where they're able to enter the content. So as a privileged user, you'll be able to view it. You'll still get a warning telling you that you're actually viewing or editing an unpublished site. If I have a news item, a published news item, so again, as a privileged user, I'd be able to see it. But obviously, as an anonymous user, I should not be able to see it because the microsite itself is still unpublished. And indeed, if I will try to access it as an anonymous user, I will get an access denied. Another common feature is having disabled language. You can think of it as an unpublished language. So imagine that Iraq, for some reason, decides that they want to have Spanish translation as well. So their content editors and translators should be able to create those translations and view them and edit them, but anonymous users or unprivileged users should not be able to do so. Once Iraq would decide that they want to go ahead and publish that language and make it official, then they actually edit their microsite, the country node, which is a group in organic groups lingo, and you can see that basically all the different fields, all the different settings are really fields on the node. So over here, they would be able to select the Spanish as well. Let's really quickly go over the code, not line by line, but just to understand the concept. So on the base, on the first layer, we have this idea of a group resolver. If you're familiar with organic groups since Drupal 7, this is the organic groups context. So basically, we have our own country class that extends the group resolver, and we're saying, hey, if I'm on a certain host, give me the host so I could query it and see if there are specific nodes of type country that have that host name. If they do, then I can say, okay, I find my group, I found my microsite, I found my the group was resolved as the country along with the correct cache context, and I can basically stop propagation, meaning I found the country. I will add that on the OG settings. So over here, by default, we have the route group and route group content. These are coming with organic groups. You can keep them, you can remove them, and I add my own group resolver. Then one layer above, on top of that, we have the hook node access, where in the hook node access, we're saying, okay, call this custom code that I'm writing, The first thing is I'm querying that OG context, that group resolver, and I'm asking, am I inside the group context? If not, I return neutral. I don't care. It's not for me to deal with that. If it does, then I would check if the user is a group member, meaning in this case, it's a privileged user. If not, again, I'm returning neutral. If it is, I return allowed with the correct cache context and cache tags. Then again, on top of that, we have a route subscriber where we are altering all the routes of the different node actions, view, edit, and so on. And we are adding our own access. The access, again, really briefly, if it's an admin route, don't deal with that. Drupal is already dealing with that. Check OG context, the group resolver. If I'm not in the country context, I don't care about it. And then I'm asking the node access, right? I'm asking, is the user allowed to access that country, that microsite, or is the user allowed to access that language in case a language is disabled? And basically, I'm again deciding who should be able to access it or not. I'm able to add my warning message, hey, watch out, you're viewing right now an unpublished country. And then finally, I'm redirecting the correct hostname. So this is in a weird case that I'm right now on the hostname of, let's say, Iraq, and on the URL itself, I'm entering node/4, which is actually belonging to Spain. Then I would redirect them to es dot the rest of the URL, meaning you'd always see the correct node along with the correct hostname. So in the end, those microsites are really organic groups. So over here, we can see Spain. This is the country node, which happens to be a group. So on the tabs, I can see view, edit, delete, and I can see a group. The group tab allows me to add the members, to administrate my group. Organic groups, in the end, provide you roles and permissions the same way that you have on the global site, but on the group level, on the microsite level. So over here, we can see that we have permissions for the node of type country. I'm able to edit my permissions and change them differently for each role. That's it, folks.